clock at 28,000. 200 bogey on the nose, 28,000, 7 miles. Take 21. EID. Mongil's locked.
Exit the area.
Rail section, stand by for BID. Coming down my boat side, Mach. Mongil's stat 1. Good sniff, MiG-21. Kill. Fox 1, MiG-21 low. It's a MiG-21. That's confirmed.
Hey modelers, welcome to the channel. Darren here, coming at you with a new video build series. You could probably tell by the beginning of the video here that we here at the ModelGeeks Podcast are sponsoring a group build for the 2023 IPMS Nationals being held in San Marcos, Texas this year. The theme of that build is MiG Killers, and the rules are fairly simple. It has to be a modern day jet that shot down a MiG. 72nd scale, 48 scale, or 132nd scale, in any nationality, as long as it's the jet that shot down the MiG and not vice versa. I have chosen the Hasegawa 148 scale F-18C. I'm doing that in the VFA-81 Sunliner livery, aircraft 410. That aircraft is credited with a MiG kill on January 17th during Desert Storm off USS Saratoga. Was my sister squadron on board that ship during Desert Storm, so it's pretty cool that I can do a jet for my air wing for this group build. So the group build, or the build on the Hasegawa kit, is fairly simple, fairly straightforward. The only thing that I've come across on this one is that the kit I'm using was already started. It was bought it that way at a show. And they had used a Eduard photo etch set and for the cockpit detailing. I didn't like that, so I ripped it out. Now, of course, my cockpit was void of detail, so I ended up utilizing a Quinta Studio cockpit set. Now, that said, the footage of me installing that was compromised, so I didn't get all of it. You will see the finished piece. If installing a Quinta set is something you would like to see, then please leave a comment below, and if it's enough interest, then I will do a separate video on actually how to install Quinta or Red Fox Studios, etc., type cockpit details. One other thing before we get started. I don't know if you can tell, but the content here is going to be changing. We are transforming the YouTube channel over. In the future, you're going to see more video builds, tutorials, product reviews, new kit reviews, techniques, and live streams. As a matter of fact, we just did a live stream last week. I'll link that in right up here somewhere. And that was with Chris Seaver, or Leftrum72. He has a YouTube channel here as well. Very well known on Instagram. And I'll link to all his information down below, but just a true talent. In any case, we want to bring more of that type of content to you, the viewer. So, if this is your first time here and scale modeling is your thing, thanks for showing up. Please consider subscribing. Go ahead and ring the bell for notifications, because there's a lot more coming in the very near future. So, with that, please sit back, enjoy the video, and if you have any questions, comment below, and we'll get back to you. All right, we'll see you on the other side. Okay, so here's the kit, and as I said before, it was started. So you can see here that it's got some paint on it already. The cockpit itself has been coated with some light gross gray. The instrument panel Obviously it had that color zoom set on it, so I ripped that off. It didn't look good, but that left me with no details. Typically when I'm putting one of these together, one of the only things I'll add is an aftermarket seat, and in this case a quick boost seat that I had sitting in my stash. These are really great seats. The detailing on them is really good. As you can see here, molded in belts, which I prefer. I just think they look so much better when detailed and weathered. I also picked up that Quinta set, and I'll use that on the instrument panel so that I have some details there, and makes things look a little bit nicer. So the first thing I have to do is get rid of these raised details. Those have to come off, and in order to do that, I'll just start by cutting stuff off. Get as much of it as I cut off as I can. I'll use files. I got just some regular files like this. I also have some diamond ground files that I use for photo etch, which tend to work a little bit faster, but this works with no problem. Get that off. Some scraping. Now, this is one of those X-Acto ceramic scrapers, and it really works well. It takes a lot of material away fast. And that actually keeps you from dulling your good blades, because these things don't dull as easy. Now I get as much of that off as I can, and then I'll break over into my sanding sponge. This is 600 grit. Go ahead and cut just a piece of that off of there, and then utilize my tweezers to hold it, and that works like a champ. And you get in there, it really smooths things out. I won't take it much finer than 600 grit. I'll find that the 600 grit gets it smooth, but it also allows a surface for the PVA glue to bite to when I put the Quinta set in. Now, obviously, whenever I get done doing this, the next step is to paint and to go ahead and get ready to put that Quinta set in. Now, here's a quick tip. This is something I like to do. I usually, when it comes to seats or IPs, I will get a piece of sprue, little dab of super glue, which is a mechanical bonding type glue, and I'll use that and stick it to the bottom of the seat. And a lot of people think, oh, super glue, that stuff's going to bite, and it breaks loose very easily, folks. And what this does is it really gives you a nice little handle to hold on to things while you're doing your detail painting, etc. So don't need it on the cockpit tub itself, because that back piece is not going to be painted. But for these small pieces, this is the cat's meow. Holds it right there, and you can do all your spray paint or your airbrushing and your detail painting. Now remember, I told you I'd lost all the footage of installing the Quinta, but here you can see that the IP is done, and it really makes a difference. The stuff is just beautiful work. Here's a couple of pictures of the finished product. I can't say enough about it. It really does a really good job of adding that detail to the cockpit. All right, so moving on. The next thing I want to do is I want to paint the seat, and that starts with using something like this XF80, and I'm going to use that as a real light gray, and I'm going to dry brush this seat. Now you remember seeing all the raised details. Dry brushing this is going to bring those details out and allow you to see better when it comes to doing the detail painting. Think of it as being able to color within the lines. Now, the trick here is to get as much of the paint off of your brush as possible. You'll see me on the paper towel. I'll put it on my hand. No paint is coming off. And then very lightly dry brush. Very lightly. And you're going to see here in just a second that even with no paint coming off on my hand and virtually nothing on the paper towels, it's going to be just enough paint to bring those details out so that you can see better to do your detail painting. Great little trick, and it works like a gem. So here I'm going to head box just a little bit. Let me show you up real close here what it looks like. And I mean, a lot more paint left in that brush than what you think. Makes it so much easier to get in and paint around those belts and buckles. Next up, break out my old Army painter Wet palette. I like to use this because the acrylics I use in this instance is going to be the Vallejo Model Air with a little bit of fluid or a little paint retarder. But the wet palette itself, if I put this paint in there, it's going to keep it fresh for quite some period of time instead of just a little soda cap full and then throw it away. The key here too with these flats is that Liquitex paint retarder. How many times have you painted over, tried to paint a flat color and it just peeled the dried paint back? This flow retarder or paint retarder will actually slow the drying process and allow that paint to self-level itself, giving you a much better, smoother finish. So let's put it straight into the wet palette, add a drop of retarder and mix it up. Now another thing about the wet palette, and you're going to find this, check your references for your pictures on your seats, the different colors of greens. By the time you finish, you might have 10 different shades of green in this wet palette, and you're going to be going back and forth, back and forth. So that really allows that paint to stay fresh. Now it's just a matter of taking your time, steadying your hand, and getting in there around those details and getting your painting done. It's not hard. It might seem a little daunting at first, but a little bit of practice, and if this guy can do it, you can certainly do it too. Now you'll see that I've got some shades, different shades of greens going on here. Like I said before, you're going to go back and forth with different ones, silvers, khaki tans, drab greens, etc., etc. So once I get all this painting done, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab myself my little decal sheet here from Airscale. Now these are all sorts of little ejection seat details, and they are worth their weight in gold. They're little decals. They go on just like a regular decal does. A little bit of Solvaset, microsol, or microsol, microset, just like normal, a little warm water, and you go ahead and treat them like any other decal. Go ahead and put them in place, get them all dried up, and then of course I go ahead and give the whole seat a gloss coat once I'm done. Not a gloss coat, a semi-gloss coat, and that's just so I can seal those decals in, and then I'm going to go ahead and use a little bit of Tamiya panel liner, get inside there, get the detail done on the seat, and get ready to move on. All in all, the cockpit itself took me about 4 hours to do, 5 hours to do. Pretty straightforward. So you can see here this here is almost finished, and it's ready for its semi-gloss coat. So there you go. In a nutshell, fairly easy, straightforward cockpit. Does make it a lot easier using the Quinta stuff, so I don't have to do all the detail painting on the instrument panel and the side panels. That said, that Quinta stuff is really good. It looks great. Not something I would use all the time, but in a pinch like this, it is absolutely called for. So I will put some pictures up here at the very end. Please have a look at where we're at so far. In the next episode, I'm going to tackle the fuselage, putting it all together. There are some tricks up around the nose to get the nose to mount flush with no step, and also to line up the aft fuselage area, and we'll cover those next time. So until then, again, I want to ask, please, if this is something you've enjoyed seeing, please consider subscribing and ringing that notification bell so you're notified the next time we upload. Until next time, folks, let's all be good to each other. Get out there, keep on sniffing that glue and slinging that paint, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.